Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Eric Johansson, a teacher with LSAT Demon. Joining me today is Nathan Fox, co-founder of LSATdemon.com, weekly podcast thinking LSAT, and just an all-around good guy. How's it going today, Nathan?
It's going great.
I don't know.
How are you?
Good. I don't know, felt like throwing that in there.
We don't normally do the chit chat at the top of the show, but it's, living the dream. Things are going great.
Great. Well, hopefully we can bring some of that positive energy. We got an email here from Anonymous who is looking for some help.
Anonymous says, I know this isn't therapy, but I know there's probably someone out there like me where life is getting hard and it's making it harder to focus and study. There may be someone who's going through grief, loss, heartbreak, that's me, or just regular life stressors. For me personally, I try and push through and study, but I find myself not giving 100% into the time that I'm studying. I've already pushed my test back from November to now January and February. Do you have any advice on how to keep pushing? Should I keep doing a little bit each day or take a break? Thank you, Anonymous. What do you think?
I think we don't know because we don't really know what you're going through, Anonymous. I would like to tell you, try to do a little bit every day, even if it's really just a little bit each day. I expect that you can probably do an LR question every day, maybe two. And if that's all that you've got on a given day, great. Get the most out of it, learn something from it, and don't feel bad if that's all that you do during a day. And don't feel bad if you need to take a break during a day as well. Whether you can do more than that, it really comes down to what it is that you're going through. And when it comes down to it, I think you got to prioritize your health. Always, your health is bigger than the LSAT. It's bigger than who you're going to be as a lawyer. It is the most important thing. So prioritize your health, whether that means taking a break or not. And if it also means reaching out to a therapist to get some help there, we are advocates for that. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to do that.
100%. I've used BetterHelp before. I mean, they don't advertise on the podcast or anything. They advertise on every other podcast. Apparently.
Yeah, we're the only one.
Like any kind of somebody listening to you could help you to get through these issues. But I mean, what I really am trying to say is protect the asset first. The asset is you. So your physical and mental health are far more important than any of this stuff. The LSAT and law school will always be there. So the fact that people anchor on stuff, right? It's like, well, I've already pushed it back from November to January and February. Who gives a shit? Push it back a year, push it back 4 years. There's just going to be cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. Every September will be a great time to apply to law school. Every September, there will be people starting law school who ideally applied, a year prior. There's no rush into any of this stuff. So take care of yourself. And if you end up never going to law school, it might be the best decision you ever made. So I don't know. It's just, this isn't important. And taking care of yourself is.
Yeah.
Maybe you can use LSAT as a distraction from other stuff, though, as Eric suggests. Set tiny little baby goals, do one question. Maybe you find yourself getting interested, get into it, get distracted. And, LSAT can be a break from thinking about all that other stuff.
Because what are we doing on the LSAT at the end of the day? We're playing little games. We're playing little games with words. Yeah. And for those of us who get really good at this test, we enjoy that. We have fun with that. The people scoring really highly and doing well on this test are enjoying themselves, and they think it's fun. So can you find a way to find that enjoyment? Ben and I had an episode recently about learning to love the LSAT. Maybe you can check that one out. I could tell you, remember your why and remember how important it is, that this is a step on your journey to being the change that you want to see in the world. And I think, there is absolutely something to that, to contextualizing why it is that you're doing what you're doing, where it is that you're going with your LSAT study. I'm sure you have amazing plans for what you want to do with your legal career, Anonymous. That only works so much. And I think you still have to enjoy the process and set process goals. You can't rely on going onto YouTube and watching a hype up video to get you in the mood to focus. I know, because I do that sometimes for running. Like, I love to run. Running is a big part of my life, as listeners of this podcast will know. There are plenty of days when I wake up and I do not want to go outside in the morning and go out for a run. I'm like, oh, this sounds terrible. Some days I am able to put on a YouTube video with some Olympic runner and I'll get hyped up watching that video. I'm like, hell yeah, let me go run. Other days that doesn't work. Because at the end of the day, running is still tough. So in that sense, you really just have to figure out, what is it that I'm going to enjoy about the process of running today, or the process of working today, independent of like the goal that I'm working for or being hyped up by external factors.
Yeah. No, if you're doing LSAT correctly, it does get easy and fun. The questions solve themselves if you simply understand what they actually say. The reason why you're struggling with the LSAT is because you don't understand what the words say on the page. You're not reading it well enough to really understand the facts that are being presented. You're not reading the arguments well enough to understand what they're trying to conclude based on what evidence they're providing. You're not reading the questions well enough to understand what they're asking you about the record you just read. You're not reading the answer choices well enough to understand that there's one answer that does answer the question and there's 4 answers that just don't. And if you slow down a little bit and really focus on understanding it, then you'll realize that there's just one clear answer for every question. And it is fun. That's where 170 something LSATs come from. And that's how, you're going to actually enjoy the process instead of having to power through, something. So I would definitely recommend doing fewer questions and focus on the quality of your understanding rather than the quantity of material that you're getting through.
It's fun when it's easy, huh?
Yeah. And it's easy when you take the time to let it be easy. You just have to actually understand what you're reading. Successful lawyers are not people who read something and go, yeah, well, I didn't really get that part, but yeah, well, it's probably this, right? That's not lawyer shit. Lawyer shit is actually mastering the record, right? You've got to really understand what that document says.
Maybe if I read the next page in this brief, it'll help me to understand what that previous page actually
right.
said.
No, let's make sure we understand. Let's make sure we're building on a solid foundation instead of just like glossing over stuff and pretending like you get it when you really don't get it. I mean, that's painful.
Yeah.
So, maybe just do a bit less. Like, don't do quite so many questions, but take your time with them and really understand them so that you feel good about your answers. You should find that you're getting more and more questions right. Even if you're doing fewer questions, you're just getting more of the questions that you're doing right. And maybe you get a little win from that.
Yeah.
That would be my advice. If you're going to keep studying.
I agree.
But if you're not going to keep studying, push your test off for 6 more months. It sounds like you've already registered, which is a little bit of an error. You shouldn't be registering for tests unless you're happy with your practice test results. So I would push that, maybe especially where you are right now, if you're not happy with your current practice test scores and you're also having a hard time focusing on your studies, maybe push your official test way out. Push it out to June or whatever, just push it as far as they'll let you push it and take some time off and come back to it when you feel like you're really ready to study.
Yeah, I totally agree. Health first.
Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.